There's a big battle in Pullman. It's for the quarterback, and we finally found out when they will announce one. Let's discuss it.
You are Locked On Pac-12, your daily podcast on the Pac-12 Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on in. Locked On Pac-12. I'm your host, Christian Rowe, hanging out with Gavin Hyde of Up West Sports on today's episode. And today's episode is brought to you by Kalshi. For a limited time, download the Kalshi app and use code LOCKEDON to get $10 when you trade $10. Gavin, we got a fun episode for today. We're going to talk a little offensive line chatter for Boise State, that Snake River rivalry for you at Washington State. And the rest of the episode is going to be about those Cougs. What's going on with the preseason impact list for Washington State. But first, we got to dive into probably the most important storyline for Kirby Moore, for Washington State in the 2026 season. It's who's going to be the quarterback. We got a little bit of clarity, not maybe who it is, but when it'll be announced, Gavin.
Today's August 10th, I believe, and we have 2 weeks out. On August 24th, they will be announcing a starting quarterback. Now, it could be before then, but they did mention by August 24th, there will be a starting quarterback mentioned. And this is completely game-changing because the transparency that we're getting from just a year ago, we had no idea. It was 15 minutes before the game before we found out Jackson Potter was taking the snaps. And we're like, okay, here we go. New season, new us, new era, new everything. And now we're doing the same thing again with the new coach who's had nothing but great transparency. He's not going to tell you every little ins and outs, that's going on behind the scenes, but he gave us a good deadline. Hey, a handful of days before, actually a week or so and a half before the game, September 6th, I believe, is our first game. You're going to know who your quarterback is, and we're going to move forward accordingly. But giving that transparency is awesome. And the fact that he did that, now you don't have the media just, hunching over you, asking every question on quarterbacks and just doing that. Now you can focus on other areas. And this team has a lot of areas that you can focus on. But today in this segment, we are talking about the quarterbacks, no doubt about it.
Yeah, now you'll, instead of get the straight up question of what's going on at the quarterback battle, you'll start hearing some of these reporters get little nuggets trying to sneak in, like, is there an edge? They'll try to see, okay, read through every single thing that Kirby Moore, the offensive coordinator, and the players say. This is where your speculation season really starts to take place, because now you have a deadline, so you'll see who cracks first, and maybe you get an answer on that. That's when you have to pay attention to the press conferences. But the three quarterbacks that are in play, if you're new to Washington State, or if you just haven't listened too much this offseason, that's okay. We got you covered here on Locked On Pac-12. Caden Pinnock, Owen Eshelman, and Julian Duggar are the three quarterbacks that are battling it out for the starting job. Now, Eshelman and Duggar were both at Washington State last year with Jimmy Rogers. They stuck around. Caden Pinnock is the only transfer in this competition coming over from UC Davis, the Big Sky Freshman Player of the Year. We have a few days of fall camp in the books. Gavin, if you had to put like a front runner, a conversation on what is going on so far, what would you say this quarterback battle is looking like between the three players?
Still a competition. I think that's the one thing that you got to love about it is there's still a competition. They started airing it out on day 2 of workouts and everything, and day 3 you started seeing some progression already. Day 2, when they first started airing it out, yeah, the ball was being overthrown. I guess a thing that you kind of would, if you're going to see a mess up, you'd rather see them throw it too far. You'd rather see them overshoot guys. Still not a good thing to see. However, you would rather see them overshoot it because then you can dial it back from there. It's always hard to kind of put a little extra pepper on it. Coming from being a former quarterback in my junior high days. But I digress. So day 2, they already made progressions. We're already seeing, guys like Pinnick and Eshelman hitting guys deep. Still excited to see what Julian Duggar can provide this week. I think he's still very much in this running. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff to kind of see with Coach Moore giving huge shout outs to this quarterback group and making the progressions that they've made.
Yeah, some of the things I read, and let me know if I'm reading too deep into this or if you think this is interesting or important. That's something that I like to utilize, the difference between when I'm defining a situation inside this storyline. A couple of things that I started to read on this, I think it was Coug Fan on 247 Sports that reported it, Jamie Vinnick, shout out to him if that's the case. They're talking about, throwing the deep balls and things like that. And Pinnick and Eshelman were taking the attempts, but Julian Duggar was deciding to keep it, either do checkdowns or take off and run with it. Is that just interesting, or is that important when trying to decipher between the quarterback battle and taking risks, taking chances, and style itself?
I think there's also something to be said about not throwing the ball, right? Like the decisions that you don't make can also help you. We saw a lot of turnovers from Zevi Eckhouse, I think, just from bad decisions last year. However, the chances that he took really helped us. So there's some good and bad. I think you're getting different flavors from these style of quarterbacks. And that's one thing that I think is an opportunity for Julian Duggar to really capitalize on. I think that it's in there. I think I've seen him throw the ball. I think there's definitely a deep ball in him to be able to play that game. But I think there's something to be said about the decisions that he's not making, about being able to keep it checked down, not throwing the ball away. That's something to also like. However, yeah, we're trying to prepare for the season, so we want to try and take risks now. So maybe you can make that. Maybe we could see that next step in the next couple of weeks.
I'm going to ask you to speculate here, because obviously we don't know for sure. The season is ahead of us, and we can't predict the future, although we try to on this podcast. I'm going to ask you to speculate a little bit. Last year with Jackson Potter, with Zevi Eckhouse, Julian Duggar, there was, for a little bit of time, especially early in the season, a rotating door at quarterback. When this quarterback is named, whoever it is, Pinnick, Eshelman, or Duggar, will it be the quarterback for the season, or will we see a changing of the guard at some point? What do you think? Do you think he'll have pure confidence by the time fall camp is over, or will there be potentially a change?
I think there's always going to be a chance for a change, right? If you go 0-4 and your quarterback is throwing 3 picks a game, that doesn't matter who it is. Yeah, you're probably going to want to see something else. However, do I anticipate going 0-4? No,
Sure.
I don't. I think at least the Duquesne game, you can hopefully say that you'll come away from that game from a win. Shout out to Kansas State. UW's got a pretty good team, and Arizona is also pretty solid as well. But if you go 0-4 and you have a ton of picks per game, yeah, of course, that decision, or that can also be on the table, whether it's Pinnick, Eshelman, Duggar, or anybody else not even being named right now. Whoever's going to be that starting quarterback, if you start off like that, there will be a change. However, whoever's getting that call, I don't see that happening. I see them stepping up. I see them making a progression throughout the year. They may stumble and bumble throughout the beginning of parts of the year, because this is a brand new team also. We're still trying to get to know each other. I think they've done a fantastic job getting through spring and fall to get to know each other, to have that communication. They're preparing very well. They're trying to stress test them as best as they possibly can. They're airing it out on days 2, day 3, and probably from here on out to really test them. But yeah, I think that there's going to be whoever's named is going to slowly progress throughout the year and get better and better each game.
Yeah, that would hopefully be the case, and hopefully the best case scenario for Washington State as well. Kirby Moore, obviously, it's his first fall camp as head coach at Washington State. You shared with me a quote earlier before we hit record on this one. The energy seems to be very contagious at fall camp, and it seems to be vibes are super high in Pullman. That's got to be great when building a culture for a brand new program.
Yeah, the tempo is up. They're playing up tempo. I even quoted, not quoted, but I talked about a little bit of a Bobby Knight story that I had heard from a coach that had coached with him. He went to this JV camp in Cortez, Colorado, of all places, and he was having these guys run the drill as fast as they possibly can, and just yelling at them. And then he backed off, let them go, and they did it perfectly the way they should. The JV team won every single game. So if you start practice, if you start the fall camp as high intensity as possible and be able to build the tempo, then you can control the tempo. And I like that story.
I love that. On the other side, let's talk about some preseason impact lists. The Pac-12 official site put out a 5-card pack for each team. Let's talk about Washington State on the other side. It's Locked On Pac-12. But first, before the season even kicks off, everyone's making predictions. Who will win the conference? Who makes the playoffs? Who's listing the trophy at season's end? Well, on Kalshi, America's #1 prediction market platform, you can trade those predictions in a live market. Right now, the College Football Pac-12 Championship winner on Kalshi is Boise State, 36%. Interesting. If you believe that, you want to put a trade in right now for Boise State, $100, you could win $265. But hear this. We think this is a dog-eat-dog conference, right? We think that anyone has the chance at doing so. How about Colorado State right now? Colorado State is at the bottom of the chances at 3%. If you trade $100, you have a max payout possibility of $3,100 if you think the Rams can win the conference in 2026. On Kalshi, you're trading against your peers in a live market, meaning there's no house. And as the probability changes, you can buy in and out of your position, trade the draft pick, the game, and more on Kalshi. Download the Kalshi app. Use code LOCKED ON to get $10 when you trade $10. That's Kalshi. It's Kalshi. Trade on everything. 18 plus only. Restrictions and eligibility requirements apply. Event contract trading involves significant risk and may not be suitable for all investors. Kalshi products are not available in all jurisdictions. Prices, values, and available markets may differ from those mentioned. For more information, see kalshi.com/regulatory. All right, welcome back to the show, Locked On Pac-12. I'm your host, Christian Rowe. Gavin Hyde of Up West Sports joining me for this one. And the Pac-12 released this across social media. They're doing it for all 8 teams. It's the Pac-12 edition, collecting all the teams. It's like a 5-card pack, right, is what they're doing. It's really interesting, really cool little social media thing. But they're calling it the preseason impact list. And they're giving 5 players for each team. And I think it's a fascinating thing. I think it's really cool, like, get to know some of the top players in the conference. And I'm going to ask you, did they get it right for Washington State? So here's the 5 that Washington State went. We'll talk about them a little bit, and then we can later on say if they missed anybody. But on offense, they have left tackle Ashton Tripp. And they also have running back Kirby Voorhees. On defense, they have Jalen Thomas, and defensive end Matthias McClain. And then they have a flex at wide receiver, Tony Freeman. I'm guessing flex because also maybe some special teams play in there as well. What do you like about this list? Did they nail it? Did they do exactly good here, or what?
I think Ashton Tripp, these great lists, right? Like it's 5 that you definitely need to circle and watch for a breakout year or just a year moving forward in general. I think Tony Freeman, everyone's got him kind of at the top of the list. EA Sports has got him being the number 1 player at Wazoo for NCAA 27. And so I truly think Tony Freeman's going to have a freak year. He's set up so well to have just a great year. We don't even know who our starting quarterback is right now, but I know he's going to do well. Jalen Thomas did incredibly well in the spring. He had a couple pass breakups. He had a couple interceptions. He was always being talked about defensively in that when we didn't know exactly how these D-backs were going to kind of move forward. We knew a little bit about the defensive tackles, Matthias McClain, another one of those names. And then Kirby Voorhees getting ready for a very, very good year. In a crowded room for running backs, you're going to see 3 versatile guys, if not more than that. There's Bo Phillips and beyond. You have a couple freshmen coming in. There's a lot of running backs that are going to probably get touches in either way to move the ball down the yard. However, I did want to add a few names myself because I think that there's a couple more guys. I mean, there's so many guys to name. And if I don't mention you, if you're a player out there listening, if I don't mention you,
hold the thought for adding a little bit more. I want to talk about the list just a little bit longer, but I do want to get that. I want to talk a little bit more about Voorhees because I've gone out when we just switched, we just rebranded over the lockdown. I made a list about who I think could be some of the breakout players in the Pac-12, and he was on that list. Obviously, when you think about Kirby Moore and what he did at Missouri and what he did with Ahmad Hardy, obviously Voorhees is seen as the top running back in this room, although it's a deep room, as you mentioned. I feel like he has the opportunity to truly break out and maybe not be one of the top running backs in the Pac-12 because the running backs are loaded in this conference, but certainly be seen as one that can certainly make an impact and maybe even help Washington State steal a game or something, that dark horse type of candidate that I think this team could be.
Yeah, I think our running back class is underrated. Not to say that this Pac-12 is going to feature some really good running backs, and I'm really excited to see the rest of these running backs that our brand new Pac-12 is going to commit to. A lot of people are just coming straight in and they're like, oh, we don't like this team, we don't like that team. No, I love that we have a Pac-12 again.
Right.
And so we're going to have so much representation at the next level because of all these great players that are now here. So I'm excited for, I think San Diego State's got some really good running backs. Boise State's always got good running backs. I know I'm keeping some names out there, but our own team, Washington State, has some underrated guys. Kirby Voorhees kind of leading the charge in that one. Leo Pulalasi and Maxwell Woods are bound to have great years themselves, but all 3 kind of bring, a little bit different sauce to the party. Voorhees is not shy from hitting the A or B gap and just going up against a defensive tackle or hitting the linebacker straight up. He loves providing the thump. Leo Pulalasi has some great moves. He's able to kind of bounce around and hit different spots. And Maxwell Woods, great off the edge. He can hit that C gap or outside and bounce and just absolutely lift. And then all three can go out for the pass, including Bo Phillips is another name that we haven't been talking about a whole lot. But back to your main topic of Kirby Voorhees. Man, this guy is special. I got the chance to interview him on our channel. Really good dude. He, choosing Pullman twice after staying with a coach that, chose you at South Dakota State. That was really cool to see that he chose Pullman, and he believes in what Coach Kirby Moore. Nothing against, Coach Jimmy Rogers and what he's produced. I know he has a great relationship with him, but Kirby Moore, there's something to like about the future that he's going to help create for Kirby Voorhees, and I think he's going to lead the way for this running back group.
I love it. Yeah, absolutely. No, I think this has the opportunity to be a very good running back room this year, led by Kirby Moore and what he has proven to be with the running game for sure. And, if the quarterbacks take a step back or they take a minute to gain or, to grow, the running back room could really hold them for sure. All right, I won't hold it anymore. Give me some of these other breakout players that you think could be on this list as well. I know you have probably a big list, Gavin. You're pretty high on this roster, and as you should. It's a very good roster.
Yeah, I'm seeing it through a vacuum. I'm pretty high on this roster, and sure, you can label me whatever you want.
It's a good roster.
It's a good roster, and I got to admit, the rest of this conference did very well in the transfer portal. However, I'm focused mainly on the Cougs, and we cleaned up shop. I thought we did a really good job. We're seeing guys come from the FCS level and do things, or just not lower tier, but just lower non-power 4 schools that guys aren't being talked about. The chip on the shoulder that we've always been having in Pullman. Jeremiah Bernard leads that list for me. He's a defensive back transfer from Cal Poly, had a great spring, a lot of pass breakups, and a handful of interceptions. Him and Jalen Thomas were 1-for-1, always being talked about with either an interception or a huge pass breakup to challenge a very crucial part of whatever skelly they were running or whatever, defense or, scrimmage that they were running. Jeremiah Bernard, I think, is going to turn a corner. I think he's not being talked about enough, and he's towards the top of my list for some of the players that need to be talked about moving forward. Beyond that, I got to interview him. He is a leader. I can already see it just from being able to talk to him. He's super grateful to be at Washington State. Nylan Brown, linebacker from Kent State. He joins Caden Beatty, who has a great relationship with. But yeah, Nylan Brown, a linebacker from Kent State. I believe he was the team captain over there. And he talked about communication as a middle linebacker, or just be a linebacker in general, the guy that's in the middle of the field. If communications being one of the big things that he's talking about, I mean, Ernest Jones is one of my favorites, and that's a Seahawks guy. You saw what they did. You saw Ernest Jones really lead the charge. Communication being that high level, next level thing. And Nylan Brown has it. Beyond that, you have Isaiah Hung. He's, I believe, a redshirt sophomore. I also got the chance to interview him. Awesome guy, but he is due for a breakout season. He's grown a ton. I believe he went from 200 to 229. He's going to be doing really big things. I think Coach Hardman, the strength and conditioning coach there that they brought in, has done a phenomenal job with these guys. And then also PH balance, as our good friend Joel says, or P3, Paul Hudson III, defensive line. Not enough that guys are talking about him. Hands down. He was quoted in the spring saying he's the best playmaker in this country. He was quoted saying that. And we're seeing that come to fruition right now. In the fall, this defensive line, and especially him, are making an impact. And then I gotta throw this name out there. Keith Brown. He's returning for, I don't know which year, I'll be honest. However, he was out for most of, if not all of last year. This guy is hands down one of the biggest leaders and key comebacks for this team. And I think it's one of the main reasons you had a lot of players stay. I think he was really the coordinator of, he's the key piece to this whole thing. And Keith Brown's going to not only have a great year, but he's going to set himself up well for the next level, and he's going to provide what was given to him through Kyle Thornton. I heard that in an interview. He talked about his mentorship from Kyle Thornton. He's now passing the torch on to Isaiah Hung, Lance McGee, all these other incoming freshmen. I'm really excited to see Keith Brown hit the ground, and I know he's just foaming at the mouth, ready to take on the Dogs on September 6th.
I'm glad you said that, because I'm going to make you plant a flag to end this segment today. Out of all the names that you named, not from the preseason list, but all the names that you named, give me one that you think will arrive on that standalone Sunday in the Apple Cup. What is that one player who will break out that everybody in the country is going to say, who's that guy?
I'm going to go with P3, Paul Hudson. If he's going to say it, I'm going to say it with him.
All right. He thinks he's the best playmaker in the country. Let's see if he can do that against the Washington Huskies. Well, on the other side, let's talk about the other rivalry of Washington State. That's the Snake River rivalry. That's something that they're trying to add in, the red versus blue. And Boise State has an interesting story when it comes to their left tackle position. How important will that be for the future of Spencer Danielson and Boise State? And can they put it all together? Because there's a lot of question marks with that offense. We'll do that next to wrap up this show. It's Locked On Pac-12. This episode of Locked On Pac-12 is also brought to you by our friends at Game Time. There are more live events than ever worth seeing right now. Games, concerts, comedy shows, the theater, festivals. The hard part usually isn't deciding what you want to attend. It's actually getting those tickets. And between long wait times, confusing checkout processes, and surprise fees, buying tickets can sometimes feel harder than it should. That's why myself and so many fans turn to Game Time. The app is built to making buying tickets simple with upfront pricing, seat views before you buy, and exclusive saving opportunities to help you get the events you want without the usual hassle. I was just on a trip on the East Coast. I utilized Game Time. I got to see my seat. I didn't have any hidden fees. I'm telling you, it was painless. It was awesome, and it got the job done. One less thing to be stressed about on a vacation when you want to just enjoy the game. Game Time made that happen. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets of every type of event with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply, but again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. All right, final few minutes here on Locked On Pac-12. Thank you so much for making it your first or second listen of the day, and thanks for making the Locked On Podcast Network the #1 sports podcast network in the world. Gavin Hyde of Up West Sports joined me for this conversation. You can check out all his Washington State coverage and Seattle sports coverage over on his YouTube channel. But we're going to talk a little Boise State on this segment. And look, there's been a lot of storylines in fall camp. We're going to get to them across the next couple days, weeks, heading up to the season, when it comes to all these different teams, including Boise State. But one that certainly has stuck out to me from hearing from fall camp, from Boise State's media days when I had the chance to speak with Spencer Danielson, is left tackle. It's such a fascinating left tackle, Tyler Etheridge. He's coming over from Division II, and he's taking over the starting left tackle position, won the job for Boise State, which is considered, many people consider it, the top group of 6 school in the country. When you see all these rankings, usually Boise State's the one that gets the rankings and the things that projections to win the college football playoff spot because of how they've been the last couple seasons. So this is a huge pickup, but listening to him, it doesn't sound like a D2 player. It sounds like somebody who is absolutely ready for that next step, Gavin.
Yeah, I think you and I had chatted about this a little bit where, with that 5th year of eligibility, you're going to start seeing maybe 4 and 5 stars start to head to some of these schools that maybe they wouldn't go because they want to start playing sooner rather than later. Well, on the other side of that coin, this NIL era and also this transfer portal, as I was coaching, it came to fruition back then in 2018, 2019, right at the cusp of that year. And since then, we've just seen guys take advantage of that. Go play where you can play. And if that's Division II and you can grow there, perfect. But not to mention that I have a little bit of skin in this game. Before I went to Washington State, I played baseball at New Mexico Highlands University, which is in the RMAC. They play Colorado State, CSU Pueblo. CSU Pueblo's football team is amongst one of the greats in Division II. CSU Pueblo, I'm trying to think of the others. Colorado Mines is also up there. Harding University, Grand Valley State, Central Washington's in the mix. There's some really good Division II football programs out there, and Pueblo is definitely one of them. In fact, one of the years I was there, I think our team was actually doing well that year. They don't do well all the time, but they happened to be 4-0, and then Pueblo came into town and absolutely mollywopped them. That's how good Pueblo is, and they have a beautiful stadium. You're going to find players that come from this level that can play at a very high level and play immediately, not take a year to get ready. You're going to see guys come right away. It's all about the development. If you can get around a good coaching staff, it doesn't matter where you are. If you can get that growth and that development, you're going to see it. The only thing is now getting reps against, the talent that kind of supersedes that. As soon as you do that, you give yourself a spring and a fall warm up to get into the season, you're going to start seeing more of these Division II, maybe even some NAIA players. I saw a Grandview University kid on campus for Washington State. Unfortunately, we didn't land him, but I'm starting to see some of these guys move in these directions, and you're going to see more and more of that down the road. In fact, Mexico Highlands had an All-American running back as a freshman, and I believe he went to Stephen F. Austin, and very excited to see where his career goes as well. But this kid, there's going to be a lot to love about this kid. I know I'm talking a little bit of blue color right now, but Boise State has always done a phenomenal job. And there's a reason that Kirby Moore went there, and we are blessed to now have him as well. But hey, they've done a good job, and they identify talent really well.
Yeah, no, I believe it. No, absolutely. I think there's a difference between bringing in a depth piece and then bringing in someone you legitimately believe that could be your starting left tackle. And I think in this case with Etheridge, that is what happened. Now, when you hear him speak, you can tell that he's a very smart individual. His football IQ seems very high. And that's very important if you're going to be a starting left tackle in college football, especially Division I, especially at the level of the Pac-12. But what I like about it is what at least he was saying in his interview was that he was told that he wasn't promised the job, but he was told he could come compete, and he competed for it, and he made it happen. Like, he did have other options. Washington State was actually one of them. Colorado State, UTSA was some of the other ones. I wonder, this is speculation, of course, but I wonder how important it was. Now, he did mention that things like his faith, things like that was a big reason why he chose Boise State. Spencer Danielson is big with his faith. He makes it very clear on his pressers, and that's something that he decided that he wanted to push. Awesome. Love that. But another thing that is a connection with Spencer Danielson, he's a former D2 player. He's a former Division II player, and he's the head coach at Boise State. I wonder how much weight that carries when your head coach has that Division II experience and saying, hey, I believe in you. You can make it work here. Let's make it happen.
Yeah, I mean, from playing Division II and coaching Division II myself, if I ever lucked into being the head coach of Washington State, I would look all over Division II. There are so many good ball players. And granted, this is baseball, but still, it crosses over right into football. Sure. Yeah. You see some really talented athletes that come from this level. When you played at that level and you understand that level, and I could say the same thing for Division III coaches or Division III players that are coaches. When you play at that level, you understand where you can look and where you can find some really good talent. And there's some hidden gems at the Division II, Division III. I even had an uncommitted, top 50 uncommitted list that I put together last December. And there was a handful of Division II and Division III, and even a couple of NAI guys on there. Spencer Danielson is doing the right thing by going after these guys. And I know Kirby Moore is heading in that direction too. Wherever you can find good talent and players that are going to communicate well with your team, go for it.
Yeah, you got to find a way to build a culture, build an identity. And if you're bringing in players like that obviously want to compete and they're playing for the right reasons, then great. I'm all about it for sure as well. One thing he did bring up, I just want to make it clear, when he asked what the main difference was from D2 to playing inside of the group of six inside of the Pac-12, was he said size and IQ were the two biggest things that he noticed a difference when fighting in the trenches. I just thought that was really interesting because look, he's going to be the starting left tackle, and he's going to be playing Oregon this year. He's going to be playing Memphis. He's going to be playing the Pac-12, and I just found it really interesting. Last year, Boise State was 6-0 when they rushed for more than 170 yards in a game. They were 9-1 when they rushed for more than 125 in a game, and they have Dylan Riley and Sire Gaines in the backfield. That's an impressive duo to have. Obviously, there's some question marks about can Maddox Matson take that step up to being the quarterback. Obviously, the receivers have some issues with some injuries. They lost some receivers. If Ben Ford is healthy, I think he can be one of the best receivers in the conference. But going to all of that doesn't matter. The weapons don't matter. The quarterback doesn't matter. The receivers don't matter. If you're left tackle, can't get it done, because that is such an anchor spot on the offensive line, and putting all of your faith, for lack of a better term, on your D2 left tackle is huge. And that's something to be really excited about. And I cannot wait to watch that storyline unfold this year.
Yeah, that's gonna be a fun one to watch, even as a Coug, and we play them a little bit later in the year and everything. So I'm excited to see what that kid can do. Not just for him, but hey, take note. Maybe we could start grabbing a couple more Pueblo guys and being able to fill the Pac-12 with as many solid Division II players, especially if we're struggling in the transfer portal for NIL money to get some of these former Alabama guys or Clemson guys or any of those guys. If we're struggling there, I mean, you got to find talent wherever you can find talent. And if you can, I hate saying it, like save a few bucks, but hey, if you can find a route that's going to better fit your budget, I guess that may be the best way to put it or frame it. That's how you got to move forward accordingly. You got to be able to work with what you got.
Yeah, no doubt about that. He's built to be a guard, but going to play left tackle, 6'3", 305. Oh boy, that's going to be really fun to watch Tyler Etheridge out there anchoring it down and protecting Maddox Matson and the Boise State Broncos. Gavin, where can everyone find your work, man?
Check out Up West Sports. We are talking all things Cougs, Seahawks, and Kraken and Mariners. And I know the Mariners aren't doing so well, but we got Cougs, so check it out.
Man, those Mariners. Oh boy. Oh boy. Hey, please like the video. Please subscribe. On a good note, this has been an excellent episode of Locked On Pac-12. Those Mariners break my heart.
Yeah, my heart's broken.